Hi, have you ever tried to cook without using any measurements for the recipe? You might have actually been lucky to make a tasty meal, but likely that would end up in a mess. When dealing with the credit scoring, you can take a chance and measures are relevant. Today we are going to talk about why measuring separation is important and one of the most basic examples, the divergence statistic. Measures of separation or divergence are tools used to determine the difference in the data distribution. They are used during the model development process as well as in the validation or monitoring of the model. These statistics are mostly used to assess power and drift. Power measures the dependence between a score or characteristic and a binary outcome. It is characterized with extent and direction of the correlation. Power is used when a scorecard performance is measured in order to prove it is actually adding value. The higher the power, the better the ranking ability is. On the other hand, drift measures the variation between the expected and actual results, focusing mainly on deviation. In contrast to power, direction here is rarely considered. Low drift means less variation from the baseline. So, for practical purposes, the lower the better. The divergence statistic types can be described based on what is being compared. For example, frequencies, rankings, and cumulative percentages. We should keep in mind the specifics of the different situations, other available tools and measures, the experience and intuition of the developer of the scorecard, and any other useful insight that can be provided by business experts. When talking about the measuring ranking ability, the maximum power ranking possible depends on the portfolio in question. Independently of the tool used for measurement, the result for a risk heterogeneous group or portfolio will always be higher than the one for the risk homogeneous. That is why we can say that the results can be affected by real or apparent homogeneity in our data. Let's now understand the causes of this. It can exist an inherent characteristic of the population that makes it homogeneous. There can be data deficiencies like poor data quality or lack of relevant data. Truncation in the selection process can lead to subgroups of the population that will show lower divergence than comparing the population as a whole. The homogeneity can be product of segmentation, especially when separate scorecards are applied at different levels in the risk spectrum. We should be careful on the use of measures of separation. Overfitting can be encouraged if one only focuses on a single statistical test of ranking ability. Also, we must be sure to be comparing apples with apples and make sure we are using the appropriate test, since not all measures are suited for hypothesis testing. Now, let's see an example of measure of separation. For this, the divergence statistic is the most straightforward case. It is calculated by the square of differences of the means of both groups and divided by their average variance, as you can see in the formula. The conclusion we can make out of this parameter is the greater the spread of the values, the greater the differences have to be before the two distributions are considered different. This method can be applied for any continuous characteristic, such as scores, for example. In practice, it is rarely used. This is because it has few setbacks. First, it says nothing about the shape of the distribution. Second, it assumes that the variables are normally distributed. Finally, it can be affected if our data has outliers. Even so, it is appropriate when using logistic or probit models. Now you know more about divergence statistic. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you soon and goodbye.